What is up, heroes? This is MidniteZer0 and welcome to Heat of the Week, a new series I'm going to be doing to highlight creative and effective sets that are brought by coaches each week. Now, a lot of you guys know that in the Counter League format, there is more than just battle skill that contributes to a victory. It's also team building. It's a lot of times being creative, bringing non-traditional, non-standard, outside-the-box sets each week, and a lot of times that can get overlooked. So I wanted to create this series as an effort to note and recognize those Pokemon, and more importantly the coaches that are able to, push the limits of their Pokemon and think outside the box to create some of these really cool Heat sets. Now, I do want to stress again, this is about Heat and effectiveness. You can bring some incredible set like a Z Fire Punch Miltank, but if it doesn't actually do anything in the match, it's probably not going to be the Heat of the week. Though it'll get a cool mention from me because, of course, that is a really neat set. But for example, last week it probably would have been Gearhart's Bronzong. Why? Not because it was the most Heat thing, it's actually relatively lower Heat, but amongst all the Heat that was brought last week, it was the only one that was effective, with Future Sight, that is, which isn't super non-standard again, but it was effective. So, and lastly, these are my opinions. If you disagree, let me know in the comments below. Of course, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, everyone thinks differently, and this is just my way of seeing it. So, with that, let's get into the Heat of week number 2. Starting off, we're going to talk about Dusk from the Exception and the Tampa Bay Luxrays. Now, when you look at this Dusk at first, what stands out? It's that Fightinium Z and that Focus Punch. Not a standard set by any means. It was actually brought to counter a Curslax. It has a good chance to knock it out. Straight up OHKO it before any boosts, if it's a Curslax, of course. Looking at it, beyond that, the HP and the Spadef are there to help out with Dragonite and Gardevoir respectively. But yeah, the real Heat here is that all-out pummeling, which most people wouldn't anticipate. You wouldn't anticipate Dusknoir being the real counter to Snorlax, or at least offensively being able to almost knock it out. So yeah, props to the Exception for bringing this. Sadly, it didn't get the chance to actually follow through with that plan in the battle and ended up just going for an all-out pummeling on Dragonite to get some damage. But nonetheless, wanted to recognize it. Next up is Mega Blastoise, brought by Big Pum Gaming of the Rochester Rhydons. Now, this was a hard weather counter. Pum wanted to bring this to counter a Politoed. He wanted to bring a really bulky, specially defensive set. We got a Spadef boosting nature, tons of HP, plenty of special defense, and Whirlpool, Toxic, Seismic Toss, and Rest. So Whirlpool, it's going to trap that Politoed. Toxic, gonna put a timer on it, even if it has Rest. Seismic Toss, doing consistent damage without having to worry about investing in any, attack or offense to try and do damage to it. And then, of course, Rest to, heal off the, close to no damage that it would be getting from these Politoeds, potentially Scalds, Hydro Pumps, Ice Beams, that sort of thing as well, or potential Toxics of its own. So again, in theory, really cool counter set. Sadly, Politoed didn't show up, so there wasn't really the opportunity to show it off, which is really unfortunate because it is a really cool set. Next up, we've got Togekiss from Jodor and the Seattle Seekings. Now, Togekiss is often known for having a good special attack stat, and of course, Serene Grace, flinching Pokemon down with Air Slash after T-Waving them potentially. But this week, Jodor actually brought a Super Luck Flyinium Z Togekiss. And why is that Super Heat? Well, Super Luck in and of itself increases your critical hit chance, which is not traditional or standard by any means, but more importantly, Flyinium Z Tailwind raises your critical hit chance by 1. So this Togekiss, after a Flyinium Z Tailwind, is going to be getting a lot of critical hits, but sadly, it didn't really impact the overall match, which is something I should mention. A lot of the effectiveness, or at least how I'm considering the effectiveness, is overall impact on the match. It's not necessarily, oh, this really Heat Mon got like 5 kills, because that's one way you can impact a match, but you can also be a Heat set that walls an entire team unexpectedly, and that's really a big impact as well. It could be a set that totally changes your opponent's plan or path to victory, and that's also a big impact. So again, overall impact, not necessarily kills, not necessarily hits that it tanks, that sort of thing. But regardless, this Togekiss, it did manage to get the Flyinium Z Tailwind off, which is really cool. It got to do some damage to a couple mons, but it didn't really pull through. It might have been a little premature of a Flyinium Z Tailwind to try to sweep with it. Again, it is relying a lot on luck for critical hits and such and doing some damage, but it didn't really impact the game too largely, which is why it's not the Heat of the week, and it's just an honorable mention. Now, the second to last mon I wanted to highlight this week was Mew from Swami, coach of the Colorado Rapidash. Now, at first, when you look at this, you're like, okay, HP, defense, bulky Mew, calm, okay, interesting, mixed defenses. And then wait, is that terrain extender? Yes, this is a terrain extender Mew. Now, Swami, anticipating Tapu Lele of the Pittsburgh Pichus, knew that, well, my team is, Sandstream. It relies on Sandrush Excadrill for a lot of its offense, and that's a great way to potentially sweep it. But that can easily get cut short by priority on the opposing team. But Tapu Lele brings up the Psychic Terrain, which gets rid of or disables priority while that's active. So what if I could actually turn Tapu Lele, one of the most powerful mons in this league format, and really just in the game, what if I could turn that Pokemon against his own team? What if I put a terrain extender on him so that the terrain lasts for 3 turns longer, giving me more opportunities for a Sandrush Excadrill sweep and a longer sweep if necessary? And during the match itself, it actually succeeded. The Tapu Lele came in and Mew was able to successfully trick the terrain extender on it, knowing that not only does it cripple the Tapu Lele, given it'll take maybe a Choice Specs, maybe a Scarf, maybe a Twisted Spoon or something like that, maybe an Expert Belt, and give it this terrain extender, which aids for the Excadrill sweep late game. And so yeah, it was effective. It didn't have the biggest impact on the game, given that there wasn't a ton of priority, and Tapu Lele wasn't brought in to potentially neuter a potential Floatzel sweep, which was really the only meaningful priority that Nexus brought for their match. That said, it did alter the path of the match. After that point, after Tapu Lele had that terrain extender, Nexus had to be incredibly careful not to bring that in and potentially prevent Floatzel from revenge killing the one thing, the Excadrill, that could sweep his entire team. So it was effective, but it wasn't absolutely crucial, it wasn't pivotal, and it wasn't the biggest impact, or rather, it wasn't as impactful as the following Pokemon, which is, imaginary drumroll please, Tyranitar, also from Swami of the Colorado Rapidash. Of course, Swami brought a lot of heat this week. And this Tyranitar, known for Scarf sets, known for Banded sets, known for hitting super hard with Stone Edges and Crunches, maybe even being a Sand Set or a bulky, Rock user, maybe a mixed attacker. Very, very rarely, if ever, do you see a Tyranitar that is full on special attack. We've got a modest max special attack and a ton of HP, bunch of bulk. Assault Vest Tyranitar. The Assault Vest is there to help take hits from Lele. I don't think it even gets 2-hit KO'd by a Focus Blast from Tapu Lele, which is insane. Obviously depends on Tapu Lele's item. But what the real heat is, like I said, is this special attack. It's running Earth Power, Dark Pulse, Flamethrower, HP Grass to hit various things, but mostly to hit Quagsire, which is one of the few things that could stop a potential Excadrill sweep. With Unaware, it could make a Swords Dance from Excadrill useless. With Iron Heads and Earthquakes, it can recover them off, it can stall out Sand Turns and such. And in order to essentially, pave the way to victory, in order to make that path a bit more feasible, Swami had to come up with some way to get rid of Quagsire, and Tyranitar is a perfect lure for Quagsire. And what do you know? During the match, the Quagsire came in, and then Tyranitar ended up against this Quagsire. I'm sure no one expected Quagsire to be potentially taking HP Grass from this modest, almost max special attack Tyranitar that did about 85%, didn't net a kill, but it weakened one of the only counters, one of the only things that could prevent a Sandrush sweep from Excadrill, definitely clearing the path to victory, and overall greatly impacting the match in my opinion. Of course, that is just my opinion. You don't have to agree with me. What do you guys think of the heat? Let me know in the comments below. What was your favorite of the 5? What do you guys think about the effectiveness? Do you think the Mew was maybe more effective than Tyranitar? Is there some sort of heat that I missed? Is there some sort of heat that I overlooked? Of course, I'm always looking. I appreciate these sorts of heat sets, this creativity, and I want to honor it too. So if I missed any of it, I'd be more than happy to look at it, and I, of course, would enjoy doing so as well. But I hope you guys enjoyed this series. If you did, let me know in the comments below. If you have any feedback, I'm always open. And yeah, I hope you guys are looking forward to next week when we get to see even more heat. But until then, this has been MidniteZer0, and this mission is complete.